By the end of this video, you are going to learn how to get all the gear you need in Maplestory, all the way from character creation to the end game. Not only are you going to learn how to get the equips, I'm going to tell you how to enhance them as well, and everything else. This is going to be a long video probably, so strap in. And if this video helped you out, make sure to subscribe. But let's get going. The first thing that I want to talk about is, where does damage come from? I'm going to make this a big deal because I've seen videos, streamers, friends, posts online of people recommending a lot of stuff that you don't really have to even do on this game. A lot of gear that you get very early in the game that's just unnecessary. You waste mesos, and I'm not trying to have you guys waste your mesos, right? Because that's very important. Do not waste your money. I want to make it absolutely clear that damage does not only come from your equips. So when you're progressing through this game and you're going and getting equips, you're watching this video right now to learn how to get equips. I want to remind you that equips are not your only source of damage, because I'm very confident that a lot of you are going to have trouble one-shotting. You might not know how people are so strong and all these things. It's because they did other things than just upgrade their equips. So a lot of the advice that I give in this video, it might sound a little bit weird because I'm going to say things like, you don't necessarily need to upgrade that many equips up until 200. It's because I want you guys to go do your link skills, and then you'll realize that the game is a lot easier than just brute forcing to 200 with 0 link skills, 0 legion. I'm sure some of you are going to see this as well and think, oh, what is that legion board? Like, that's a person that has a lot of legion. Like, that's unnecessary. Screw the legion board. You know what I mean? I want to make a big emphasis on link skills. If you do your link skills early on into your progression, like if you're a new account and you do your link skills, the gearing up process will be so much easier because you won't have to get as many gear. You won't have to spend as much money on the gear, and it'll just make things way smoother for you. If you have no idea what link skills are, I have an entire video about it linked in the description. So go watch that. Now that we're all on the same page here and we know about link skills and everything else, let's talk about gearing. So I've made this picture for early, very early game gear that I wanted to show you guys. So when you first create your character, your gear is going to look like this. You're going to have literally nothing, just like level 1 basic gear that just has nothing on it, right? It's actually fine. It's actually perfectly fine to have this super basic gear up until like level 100 or so. It'll be perfectly fine to do your little story quests, to do basic starter quests, job advance, stuff like that. It'll be perfectly fine. Not only because if you did your link skills will give you a lot of damage, even just level 1 link skills, which means getting characters on your account to level 70. That'll give you more than enough damage to carry you all the way to 100, maybe even to 140 pretty easily. It's actually perfectly fine. So you don't necessarily have to worry about gear from like 1 to 100-ish. A lot of people might recommend you get these like little random pieces of gear along the way. You could do that. Like if monsters drop equips, you could do that. You could equip those equips and that would be perfectly fine. It's not a big deal. The point I'm trying to make is from 1 to 100, it doesn't really matter what you have. Everything you pick up or what you start with is probably good enough. Now, this part over here in this little diagram I've made is to talk about burning characters. There's something on this game called burning, and what it does is it makes you level up a lot faster. For every 1 level you level, you get 2 levels instead. There's terror burning, mega burning, and hyper burning. Mega burning is from 0 to 150. You level up really fast. Terror burning is to 200, and hyper burning is to 260. And if you are playing during these times where there's burning, you'll get a lot of equips. A lot of them are shown on screen here, and they'll just give them to you. So when you're level 100, you can get this frozen set if you're burning. You could look for this like legendary cryptic chest. It's most likely going to be in a star tab on the left side of your screen. You just search for the quest and it should be there, and it'll give you the items. It'll say like Burninator gifts for all or something like that. But if you are terror burning or hyper burning, you're going to get 15-star CRA gear that has like stat potentials on it for you. You're going to get event rings. Event rings are very strong and are really useful. You could get them from whatever event is happening at the time, or from hyper burning. It gives you like a hyper burning ring, which has really good stats. You could even get an arcane weapon, 15-star arcane weapon for your hyper burning. You get this like Absolab / Dominator box that gives you either a 17-star Abso weapon or a 15-star Dominator weapon. So you get a lot of free stuff just from being Hyper Burned or Mega Burned. So I just wanted to mention that real quick because I want to cover all my bases, and it's a lot easier if you are a burning character. So if you're new to the game and you might have heard there's a burning event going on, then the gearing process is a lot easier because they give you a lot of free stuff. My recommendation if you're Hyper Burned is to choose this Dominator pendant over the Abso weapon, because usually you'll get an arcane weapon later anyways, which is better than the Abso weapon. So let's say you manage to get to level 101 or anywhere between level 100 and 140. The next main set of equips that you want to get at level 140 is the Pencilier set of equips. The Pencilier set, they'll drop from mobs starting from Moon Bunnies and beyond. So anything higher level than these, they'll start dropping the Pencilier equips. So you should pick up the entire set as you are leveling up. And it's a very, very good set, getting all the way to level 200. Everything before the Pencilier set, just pick up literally anything that's on the ground and you'll be fine. So if we look at the Pencilier set here, there are 6 items. There's the hat, the overall, the weapon, the shoes, the gloves, and the cape. And the Pencilier has a really nice set effect for mobbing. It gives you attack, stat, percent damage against normal monsters, and a tiny bit of ID. So it's actually a really, really easy set to get, and you can use it all the way up till 200, or maybe a little bit after that as well. So I would highly recommend getting the Pencilier set as you're training and picking it all up. Now there are some other items that you can get too along the way that'll make things a lot easier for you. If you press this light bulb on the left side of the screen and you scroll down, there's going to be this quest that says, have you learned about potential? And if you just accept the quest, you'll get an item called Kerbrock's Shoulder Accessory. So this is a really easy item to get that you can also Star Force to 5 stars, which we'll talk about in a bit. And I would highly recommend getting it at least by level 140. You could get it much earlier than that. You could get it at level 60, but the way that I go about my progression is basically from 0 to 140. I don't really worry about gear that much because I know my link skills will give me enough damage. And then at 140, I take a pause to work on my gear so that I can get to 200. Because the reason why I stop at 140 to do this is because once you're at level 140, you unlock all of your 4th job skills, you start getting your hyper skills, and a lot of Star Forcing maps become available to you, which increase your XP tremendously. So you want to prepare for these maps. Now, if you scroll down again on the light bulb, you'll see this quest that says, have you learned about bonus stats? So just accept this quest as well, and you'll get the Kerbrock's ring, which is just another ring that gives you a tiny bit of stats. It can't be Star Force, but you might as well put it on because there's 4 ring slots available to you. Now, for your face and eye, as you're leveling up, you should go do N-Zachem. N-Zachem does not have a 100% chance to drop face and eye, but it definitely does help. So make sure that you do normal Zac. You could do this with literally no gear and keep doing it every day until you get the face and eye. So I happen to get the face and eye here. Pretty lucky, but you can fill out your face and eye slots there with N-Zac equips. The next thing that you should make sure to do is to get your emblem. Now, most classes, if you look in your light bulb, there's going to be a level 100 quest that says like gift for you, like Explorer gift, Nova gift, or something like that, depending on your class. And it's just going to give you your level 100 emblem, which you should definitely equip as well. So there you go. Your emblem is filled in as well. Now, for your sub weapon, if you don't have your sub weapon yet, whether you're frozen, if you're a frozen burning character, you'll get one. But if not, if you don't know where to get your secondary, you can just go to Genesis, go to the marketplace, and you'll see a secondary seller over here, and you could just buy your secondary for any class that you want, and these secondaries will be perfectly fine up till 200 or maybe even beyond. So for me, I would buy this Death Tender Charm because I'm a Night Lord, and then I would just put it on. So now you could see some of my equip slots are getting filled in. There's still some equip slots that are not filled in yet that we can get that'll make things even easier for us. If you open the Maple guide, it's just a keybind that says guide, and you scroll up, there are actually some theme dungeons that you could do that could give you some basic equips. So let's say you didn't get the Zac face and eye and you want a belt. If you do these theme dungeons, if you click on it, you'll see the rewards. You could get a fairy mark, which is an eye accessory. If you do Gold Beach, you could get the octopus earrings, which you could fill in your slots as well. If you do Rihanna Straight, you could get the Sailor Mask, which is a face accessory, and the Sailor Belt. So these are all items that definitely make things easier because they each give you 5 stars, and you should be doing them as you level up very, very early. But if you haven't done them yet, that's perfectly fine. You could still go back and do them just to get the equips. You don't have to necessarily do them like as you're leveling to 100, but you definitely could and get these equips, and it'll make things easier because that's another 5, 10, 15, 20 Star Force potentially if you didn't get the Zack equips. So once your inventory and your equips kind of look like this, you have the Pencilier set, you got your Kerbrox, you got your theme dungeon equips. I would definitely want to Star Force my items to 10 stars. It's very little effort, very little cost, and it'll help you get to 200 way easier. Some items can only go to 5 stars, but that's fine. Just star them as high as you can, but don't go past 10 stars on your equips. So if you were to Star Force all of these items to 10, you would have 103 Star Force just from these equips. Now you'll notice that the overall says 20. The reason overall says 20 is not to star it to 20, it's to star it to 10. Overalls actually count double in terms of Star Force because it takes up your top and bottom slot, so it would count as 20 Star Force even though it's 10 stars. So that's why I put a 20 there. I would also highly recommend to join a guild. Join some sort of mule guild. Anything that in the guild recruit just says like guild for mules, just apply, something like that, because then it'll give you plus 25 Star Force and it'll make things even easier. And then at this point you'll be at 128 Star Force at like level 140, which is really, really good for these maps. So if we go to the Curtain Tower, you'll see that these maps are 80 Star Force requirement, which means that you can train here. These Temple of Time maps are 90 Star Force, which means you could still train here if you wanted. So you'll be pretty much set until like the 170s ish, where if you would want to go to these corridor maps, you're going to need a little bit more Star Force. So I put here optional upgrades from 170 to 180 if you want to keep training in Star Force maps. I'm going to show you some other items that you can get along the way to 200 that will give you even more Star Force and make things even easier. So if you open your world map and type NLC, you can teleport to the NLC town. And if you talk to this dude, Icebird, and you do his quest, talk to him again, and then talk to her, make sure you don't do the Phantom Forest one. Just make sure you keep doing this NLC public safety quest line. It's 3 quests total, 3 kill quests total, where you have to kill these urban fungus, street slime, and boomer. So after you kill all of these mobs, you're going to be able to get a ring. So I'm just going to do that real quick. So you're just going to have to keep talking to her to finish these quests. And it's 3 quests total. And once you're done with the last quest, the 3rd one, you will get an item called a NLC commemorative coin. So if you talk to this dude and in the NLC coin shop, you can buy an item called the Treasure Hunter John's ring, which is another ring that you can Star Force, and it goes up to 15 stars, and you could potential it. So that's another up to 10 stars, 15 stars on this equip that'll help you train as well. So this could be another potential 10 stars here, or even 15 stars. It's pretty cheap, but I wouldn't really recommend going to 15, maybe to 12. If you really want to push some items, I would get them to 12 stars across the board instead of 15 stars. So another 2 here, another 2 here, 2 here, 2 here, 2 here, 2 here, and then that'll add up. But there's even more items. So you can even go do Arcarium if you want as well. Now, you might not be able to do hard Arcarium between 170 and 180, but you should be able to do at least normal Arcarium. And normal Arcarium can drop an item called a Mechanator Pendant, which is a pendant that you could equip that can also be potentialed and Star Forced to 15. On top of that, if you want to get another pendant, you can do Horntail. Now, the thing about Horntail is if you can't kill Chaos Horntail in the level 180s or anything like that, or you don't have anybody that could take you Horntail, the best case scenario is if you have a friend that could take you Chaos Horntail, he'll give you 3 really good items, the ring, the earrings, and the pendant, but you should be able to do normal Horntail regardless, and normal Horntail can still drop a pendant that is really, really useful. So normal Horntail can actually even drop the Silver Blossom Ring. I'm just gonna be completely honest. I didn't even know he could drop the Silver Blossom Ring. I thought it was only Chaos, but he can drop the Silver Blossom Ring as well, which is another equip that you can use. I was just gonna talk about the Horntail necklace, but hey, even I'm learning stuff. Yeah, so there's a chance that you could get the Silver Blossom Ring as well, and the regular Horntail pendant, which are another 2 equips that you can use to get even more Star Force and even more damage along the way to 200. And these items can go to 10 stars, so that's even more Star Force. So your equips can look like this. You would have gained an additional 40 Star Force just from doing this. So then you would be at around 168 Star Force, which is really, really good. Because once you're at 168 Star Force, you can start training a lot more comfortably in the corridor maps if you want to go there. And once you want to get to Twilight Parian, where there's 160 Star Force requirement, you could definitely train here as well. If these equips aren't dropping, because I know they're not going to drop for some of of you, you can instead get these items to 12 star and get your Star Force through that by just enhancing these items a little bit more. So besides Star Force, we can also upgrade our equips with potentials. So as you're training and as you kill E-mobs and stuff like that, you'll get a lot of these mystical cubes. And you can use these mystical cubes to get your equips to 3% stat or 3% attack / magic attack. The most important is to get your emblem, secondary, and weapon to 3% attack or magic attack, because that's going to give you a lot of damage for training. You can, if you have enough potential scrolls, get all of your other items to 3% stat, or even farm Pentaliers until they drop with potential on them. You could do that as well, but it's not 100% necessary. You should be good to go just from the Star Force alone and doing your link skills. But I still want to mention that just because it is an optional method that can help you get to 200 with your equips really easily. All right, so everything we talked about so far was basically getting to around level 200. But once you're level 200 and you have your 5th job unlocked, you gain a lot more damage, which means that you can start doing some more bosses and get better equips. Now, I have a lot of equips shown on screen here, right? And what I have over here is somewhat about the equips you would have around level 200 if you've been following this guide. You would have maybe some Zack accessories, some free accessories. Maybe if you got lucky, you got a horntail ring or a pendant, Kerbrock shoulder, Pentalier set, some really basic stuff. But you're going to want to start replacing this with some better items that you're going to have for much longer term. So anywhere between 200 to 220, you should start looking to do these things, because you're going to get a lot of damage through your Arcane Force, a lot of damage through your 5th job, and you'll probably be able to start doing some more bosses. And if you've been really good, you've been doing your Legion and your links on the side, so you get a lot of damage from that as well. So the first thing that we're going to want to start working on is getting our CRA set. So goodbye Pentalier. We need to start getting our CRA set, and the CRA set gives you a massive amount of damage. Not only does the CRA set have a top and bottom that can both be potted separately instead of an overall taking up both slots, it also has better base stats and a really good set effect. So you'll get the 4-set CRA. This is the set effect for CRA. So once you have all 4 equipped, you get 30 boss, 50 attack, 10% HP MP, and 20 stat and secondary stat. So it's really good, and the base stats on the items are strong as well. So it's really good, and the Fafnir set will be really good for you for a long time. If you don't know how you get the Fafnir CRA set, you are going to have to kill the Chaos Root Abyss bosses, Chaos Pierre, Von, Crimson Queen, and Vellum. And if you don't know how to unlock those bosses, there's going to be, I believe, a level 125 quest in your light bulb. As you can see here, it says Root Abyss and Urgent Summons. Just go through this quest, and eventually you'll be placed in Root Abyss, and all you have to kill is the normal version of Root Abyss 5 times total, and then you'll unlock the Chaos version after that. In the future, if you're watching this far into the future, they're removing this prequest entirely, and you'll just have Chaos Root Abyss unlocked right away, and you'll have to kill them. It can be a bit tricky. You might not clear it the first time you try it, if it's your first time ever, but you could definitely do it 100%. Just keep practicing, and your link skills and Legion, if you've been doing it along the way, which I keep stressing in this video, will help you so much. When you kill the CRA bosses, they are going to drop these shards: Piece of Time, Piece of Mockery, Piece of Anguish, and Piece of Destruction. All you have to do is pick them up from the boss and double click them, and then it'll have the CRA equip available to you, and you could just claim it. You get the top, the pants, the hat, and the weapon, and that's how you get the equips. Now, the next set that we want to work towards is getting the boss accessory set. So the boss accessory set, you get it from killing a lot of the daily / weekly bosses that are very early into the game. Stuff like Pink Bean, Horntail, Hilla, Magnus, stuff like that, where you'll start to be able to get a lot of those equips. These bosses do have prequests, so make sure that you do the prequest. You only have to do the prequest once, and then it's unlocked on your entire account. Magnus has a pretty short prequest. Hilla has no prequest. Papulatus has a very short prequest. Horntail has one thing you have to accept, just a quest you have to accept. Arcarium, very short prequest. I have an Arcarium guide linked below. It's an updated guide because they changed the prequest pretty recently. So I have a full guide on that as well. It's very short. And Pink Bean has a pretty short prequest these days through the Temple of Time prequest. And of course, you want to unlock Golux as well, which also has a short prequest. All you have to do is do this level 180 quest, Cracks of Corruption, go through a little bit of a cutscene, and then you can start doing Golux. But we'll talk about Golux in a bit. There's also the Princess No prequest, which you got to do only once, and you'll have it unlocked. Very short prequest as well, so definitely do that. And once you have all of those prequests unlocked, they're very, very, very easy. You just have to do them, sit down, do them, maybe watch a show or something as you do them. But you'll be able to start getting a lot of these boss accessory set equips, like Chaos Horntail will drop the Horntail ring. You can get rid of this normal Horntail ring. You don't need it anymore because you'll be able to get the Chaos version, which is better. Zack, Face, and Eye, you'll be able to get these from Chaos Zack. They have a higher likelihood to drop there. And you could keep doing normal Zack every single day until you get them. If you get really lucky from Pink Bean, you can get the Pink Bean Black Bean Mark, which is stronger than the Zack Eye, so you could equip that if you're like really lucky. Earrings, you have two options. You could get the D-Sidus earrings from Horntail, or you could get the Will-O-Wisp from Hard Hilla only. It does not drop from normal Hilla, Hard Hilla only. Badge and shoulder, get rid of this Kerbrox. Badge, you could get it from Magnus, and shoulder, you can also get it from Magnus. And another thing that you could get from Hard Magnus is you can get rid of your Pentalier cape and replace it with a Tyrant cape, which has very high base stats, and you don't even have to upgrade this item at all. Do not Star Force Tyrant equips at all. They're different than normal equips, and they cost way more, but it has a 30 attack base stat on it, and it's very, very good. For belt, you could get rid of the Sailor belt and get the Pink Bean belt, which you could get from normal or Chaos Pink Bean. Pretty high likelihood to drop, so you can get one. If you want to unlock your pocket slot, you will have to get your charm to level 30, and the best way to do that is to get trait boost potions. Very, very, very often you can get trait boost potions, whether it's through your daily gift that gives you a trait increase potion and then you just level up your charm, or if there's an event going on, you could just go to the event map and there's always trait boost potions available. There's usually like 10 in every single event, so you could get all your pocket slots unlocked. And it's very, very, very easy. What you're going to want to be putting in the pocket slot is the Pink Bean Holy Cup, which you can get from Hard Pink Bean as well. And once you have these equips, you'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 set for the boss accessory set, which is the max set. It gives you a ton of stats, all stat, attack, IED, boss damage, a lot of all stat attack, and it's really, really good. And all these items could be upgraded to 10 stars or higher, so you can keep them for a decent amount of time. Now, your gloves and your shoes, I would recommend just staying on the Pentalier. They're not that great at this point in the game, but the next significant upgrade is Absol, which we'll talk about shortly. So I would say between 200 to 220, you want your equips kind of looking like this. There are some other things that you can get. You could get the Noble Ifia ring as well to fill up your last ring slot, or if you got really lucky from clearing Princess Snow, you could get a Kana's Treasure and replace your Kerbrox ring through that. Kana's Treasure just drops from Princess Snow, and the Noble Ifia ring, you can get it from killing Von Leon a bunch of times every single day and doing the Ifia questline, and you could get this ring. I personally never got it. I didn't need it. Like, you had enough damage just from your links and stuff. But if you really want to just fill up your slots, that's another option for you. Let's talk about secondary real quick. Certain classes have different secondaries. So in this example, I just have a very basic secondary. But certain classes, the Princess No secondary is the best in slot one. And the way you get the Princess No secondary is after killing Princess No a bunch of times, she drops shards just like CRA. And all you have to do is just claim it. And you can get the Princess No secondary. But not every single class uses the Princess No secondary. Some classes, like Explorer Mage, would want to get the Demo Shield. That's their best in slot secondary, which you're going to have to craft. But it does take a little bit longer because you have to go through Ardent Mill and the professions and stuff like that. But that's their best in slot one. And then Dual Blade in particular would use the Fafnir Katara and transpose it to Sweetwater, which is a whole different process in and of itself. Basically, how that works is you would claim the Fafnir Katara from the CRA CVAL pieces, and you would have to get a Sweetwater Katara from doing Commercy Voyages or CPQ. And then you would talk to this dude and press transpose and put your 16 stars specifically. It has to be 16 stars. Do not make this mistake. It has to be 16 stars. You would put your 16 star specifically Katara here, and then your Sweetwater Katara on the right, and then press OK until it passes. And it uses Denaro. So just a real quick and dirty way on how you transpose your Katara for the DBs that might be watching this video in the future. That's how you would go about it. But it's not too important when you're at this point in the game. You could just run the Fafnir Katara for the time being, keep it at 16 stars, and then in the future, you could transpose it to the Sweetwater Katara. But I would highly recommend your equips looking something like this. Try your best to get the boss accessory set. Try your best to get the CRA set. Now, you'll notice that I didn't talk about Golux or Absolab yet, because I think Golux, Absolab, and even Sweetwater is stuff that could come later into the game. So let's talk about the next stage in equips that I would like to call on the way to 260 or around 260. Now, I don't want to give definite levels for this type of stuff because people play at their own rates. Whether they're hyper burning, they're going to level faster. Whether they only do dailies and they don't really like train that much, they'll level slower. So like it kind of just is a ballpark here. But I would go from an equips that look like this to equips that look like this. Hey, if you've been enjoying this video, I want to give a quick reminder to subscribe to the channel. Most of you watching are not subscribed, and it would mean the world to me. It genuinely does help so much just subscribing to the channel. Also, pull up to my stream. I stream almost every day where you could ask me whatever questions you want, come hang out, have a good time. But with that all being said, let's continue to the video, and I appreciate you guys watching thus far. Now, you'll notice that the major differences so far is the Golux set and the Absolab set, and maybe a little bit of Sweetwater here. And I'll explain my reasoning and how you can get all of these items as well. So some of these items actually take a very long time to get, and a lot of these items just come from drops and consistently doing dailies, consistently doing weeklies. Now, the Golux set takes a while to get. It takes about minimum 2 months to get of doing Golux daily. But once you're around level 220 and you have a little bit of your 5th job more unlocked and you've practiced Golux a little bit, at least doing hard Golux, not Helix, I would highly recommend doing at least hard Golux every day, even if you can't do Helix, and saving these Golux coins. Save these Golux coins until you are able to buy the superior ring and the superior pendant. Eventually, the belt and earrings will drop, but do not go reinforced set right away, especially if it's your main. Do not go solid set, cracked set, or anything. If you happen to get these items just along the way as you pick them up and they give you more range, sure, just equip them for the time being. But I would never spend my coins on reinforced set or anything. Just wait it out for the long term, even if it takes like over 2 months of doing Golux daily to get the superior set. It's worth it. Like, the Golux coins are so important to use for the superior set because the superior set is a massive damage increase. So I would highly recommend doing Golux every single day. Now, Absolab set. How do you get Absolab set in 2024? There's basically 2 things that you can do. So the way that most people do it is they go and do the Scrapyard and Dark World Tree weekly quests. So you're gonna have to talk to One Eye, do his weekly quests, and he's gonna give you the cores so that you could buy Apsos. And then in Dark World Tree, go to Deserted Camp, and you're gonna have to talk to this dude and do his weekly quests every single week, and you're gonna be able to buy the Absolabs eventually. Now, you could do these on multiple characters if you happen to have characters that are strong enough, but I would highly recommend not trying to do it unless your characters are around level 210 and they have their 5th job unlocked, because some of these monsters at the top, like, they might one-shot you, or they're going to do a lot of damage. So keep that in mind. Now, the way that Absolab gear works is you need the cores that you get from doing the weeklies. Like, these are the weekly quests that this dude gives, and he gives you these cores. But you also need the boss cores from killing the bosses Lotus and Damien. Now, Lotus and Damien are going to be quite challenging if you're not prepared. But if you have gear like this 200-220 gear, and it's still just 10-star across the board and 3%, like we mentioned before, 3% attack, 3% strength, or whatever stat you are, you should be able to join a Lotus and Damien normal party. Like, there's no way you won't be able to join, especially, again, if you did your links and Legion along the way. It'll make things even easier for you. Now, if you still don't have enough damage to do Lotus and Damien, I would upgrade my emblem, my weapon, and secondary to legendary. The reason why I would want to upgrade these to legendary is because weapon, secondary, and emblem have unique potentials over other gear. You could get attack, boss damage, and IED, and those give you so much damage against bosses. So I would highly recommend doing those first. If you still need even more damage after that, try to get your gear to maybe epic or unique and get some stat on it. But once you're able to start doing normal Lotus and Damien in a party, you'll be able to start getting these cores and start getting your Apsos. Now, going from this set of equips to this set of equips takes a long time. Like, I'm not here pretending that it doesn't take a long time. It does take a long time. It could take over a month, 2 months, maybe even 3 months to completely get this set of equips. But my point is, you want to start working on going from this to this, one item at a time. And then ultimately your equips will look something like this. But yeah, let's say you managed to kill Damien, you got some cores. All you have to do is there's going to be like a coin exchange guy, and every single 20 cores, it's the same for Lotus in Scrapyard, the exact same thing. You can get a coin, and with the coins, you're able to get your weapon and your shoulder. Never buy an overall, never buy a hat. Don't bother with overall hat. Only get the shoulder, and the weapon. So from Damien, you get the shoulder and the weapon. And from Lotus, in the Lotus shop, you get the gloves, shoe, and cape. So you get 3 equips from here and 2 equips from Damien. And that way you have the 5-set Absolab. The reason you wear the 5-set Absolab is because with the 5-set Absolab mixed with the 3-set CRA, you actually get a lot of damage combined rather than just going full set Absol and you forego the CRA. The CRA is really good because it's a top and bottom, whereas Absolab, it's only an overall, so you're wasting an equip slot. So that's why you only want to go 5-set Absolab and nothing more. So I mentioned the Superior Golux set before, and I said how it can take over 2 months to get, and you need to keep doing Golux every single day. And it's very, very important to save your Golux coins for the Superior set. If you look at the Superior set, it gives you a lot of attack, all set, and in particular on the 4th set, boss 30%, ID 30%. That's a massive amount. That's a huge upgrade. So you really want to work on that 4-set Superior. The Superior items themselves, especially the belt, have really high base stats too. So they're very, very strong equips to get. Now for Face and Eye, the Black Bean Mark is still really, really solid. You could use it for a very long time just from killing Weekly Pink Bean. And the Sweetwater Face. Now, the reason why I mentioned the Sweetwater Face is 2 reasons. First of all, the Zac Face is not too strong of an item. It only goes to 10 stars. So spending some time in Commercy, doing the daily voyages, and buying a Sweetwater Face is actually an okay move to make. And you could keep it until you get to 17 stars for equips. But then later, it gets replaced by an item called Twilight Mark, which we'll talk about in a bit. But the reason why I think Sweetwater Face is still okay to get is because Twilight Mark is RNG. And a lot of people, when they're progressing, they're running bosses in a party and they might not even get the Twilight Mark. One of their party members might get it and they'll be stuck on a Zac Face for a very long time. Now, being stuck on Zac Face actually isn't even the worst thing in the world. Like, it's okay to be stuck on it for a while, but I know some people are going to want to push some more damage. So I mentioned the Sweetwater Tattoo anyways. I wouldn't bother getting a monocle though. Most of the time, you should just stick with the Black Bean Mark. Kanna's Treasure, just keep doing Princess Snow weekly. Eventually, you'll get one. Noble Ifia Ring, Silver Blossom Ring, those are fine. And we'll talk about better rings in the future because the better rings take a lot more preparation or RNG to get. Now, what would this type of gear look like? Anywhere between 260 to 270. This is when you're going to want to start 17 starring your gear and getting your gear to legendary. So this is what I would recommend this type of gear would look like. So you would want to get all the items that can go to 17 star, get them to 17. 17 Apsos, 17 CRA, Face Eye, Golux, Kanna's Treasure, rings, anything that could go to 17, get it to 17 star. Obviously start on event only, and then try to get all of these items to legendary and try to 2-line them. So like 18% to 21% on all of your items that give you stat. Gloves are special though. Gloves can get crit damage. Try to get at least 1 line of crit damage on your gloves. All you really need is 1 line, and that line of crit damage is super, super powerful. The weapon, secondary, and emblem, I would highly recommend getting at least 1 line of attack on all of them with some sort of bossing line as well. So either 2-line attack and then you're good, or attack with boss, attack with IED, or something like that. If you happen to get like 2 lines of boss, it's okay, but I would still highly recommend getting at least 1 line of attack because attack helps you train and mob as well. In terms of flames, honestly, at this point in the game, whatever free flames you get, just put them on your equips. Hope you get some stat. The most important flame is your weapon. Make sure you get at least a bit of attack or magic attack on your weapon, and then you'll be good to go. And at this point in the game, with just these types of equips, you should be able to get to 6 job. You should be able to start doing Lucid and Will in a party at least, being able to train in Grandis and do some of those lower end mid-tier bosses. Now, again, I want to mention that going from this set of equips to this set of equips takes a long time, and it's not going to happen all at once. You're going to replace 1 gear at a time. You're going to go from Pencilier gloves to Apso gloves. You're going to go from Pink Bean belt to maybe even reinforced belt and then Superior Golux belt. These things happen gradually over time. Do not expect them to happen all at once. You replace equips 1 at a time, but I just want to show these kind of like checkpoints in equips and progression that you want to try and hit. So let's say you're around 260 to 270. You've gotten most of this gear and you want to go to the next level. So this is where I think the next checkpoint in equips would look like. Anywhere between 270 to 275. Somewhere around there, you should be trying to work on this equips and try to get your inventory looking kind of like this. Now, you'll notice that the big changes are the Arcane set is finally in the picture. We've replaced the Apses with the Arcanes. We have the Guardian Age of Slime ring, the Meister ring. We have potentially a Daybreak pendant that we can replace with the Dominator pendant. and a Twilight mark that we could replace the Sweetwater mark with. Now, at this point in the game, star forcing and stuff like that becomes very dependent on two things. The first thing is when the next event is. If there's no upcoming Star Force event, it's really hard to make any gains. And the next thing is how many spares you have, because a lot of items, you need a lot of spares of them to get them to really high Star Force. I do plan on making an entire Star Forcing guide in the future, but this is just more of like a general equips guide and what equips to get, what the checkpoints look like, and where the big gains are coming from. So the Arcane Umbra set, there's essentially two ways to get Arcanes if you have no idea how they work. The Arcane set is what you replace the Apsos with. Apso and the armors, you get the 5 set, exact same thing. But instead of doing Lotus and Damien, you have to do Lucid and Will. So if you do Lucid and Will, those two bosses, they will drop these butterfly droplet stones and stone cobweb droplets. And exactly like the Absolab, like we mentioned before, there are stores in Lachlin and Esfera where you can trade droplets, which you get from killing monsters in Latch and above areas, they drop, or you could get them from event shops, or you could buy them with mesos. You could just straight up buy the droplets as well, and you would be able to exchange it and get a coin, and then you could use the coin to buy your armors, your shoe, your gloves, your cape. I would never ever under pretty much any circumstance buy a weapon. Never. I would never buy a weapon, no matter what anybody says. I don't care if the shit hasn't dropped in like, oh, I've been running Lucid and Will for like 3 months, it hasn't dropped. It doesn't matter. Never buy the weapon. You can literally liberate with Apso weapon. Do not buy the weapon. It's a complete waste of droplets. You need so many armor spares because these things like to boom. So you want to save your droplets for the Arcane Umbras. Do not buy Arcane Umbra weapon. You want to save them for the Arcane Umbra armors. And the exact same thing in Esfera. Esfera, you just buy shoulders. So Lucid, you buy 3 equips there. And for Will, you buy the shoulder here. Now, that's one way to get the Arcanes, but the recommended way that I would highly recommend people go about is you still stick with your 17-star Apsos until the Arcane Umbra boxes drop themselves. Now, what do I mean by boxes? If we look at the bosses, starting at Hard Lucid, there's a chance that an Arcane Umbra weapon box and armor box drop from all of these bosses. Hard Lucid, Hard Will, Normal Hilla, Chaos Gloom, Hard Dark Now, and Varus Hilla. Even Black Mage. They all have a chance to drop these boxes, and if you are patient and you stick with the Apsos, you can clear all of these bosses with the 17-star Apsos, by the way. You definitely can. You will eventually get the boxes that you need to get the Arcane Umbra set. And this is the way that I would highly recommend going about it. Just keep clearing these bosses weekly, and eventually you'll get the armors. If you're only doing Hard Lucid and Hard Will, these two bosses have the lowest chance to drop the Arcane Umbra boxes. So I would highly recommend trying to get into parties for Chaos Gloom, Hard Dark Now, and Varus Hilla because they have a higher chance of dropping the armors. So you can get them faster and you'll be able to upgrade your equips even earlier. So that's the way that I would go about getting Arcanes. Now, Meister Ring, I have an entire guide on Meister linked below. You can figure out how to get it through that. And then for the Guardian Angel Slime Ring, you actually have to kill the Guardian Angel Slime boss. You can actually get this ring from normal slime, but the drop chance is really low. So I would highly recommend, if you are in a Hard Lucid, Hard Will party at least, where you're doing that kind of stuff, or maybe even a Hard Lomian party, you should probably try and clear Chaos Slime in a party as well, because this has a really high chance of dropping the ring, so you can get your hands on one. Now, you can see I have the Twilight Mark and Daybreak Pendant here. If you happen to get them from Lucid and Will or from Vihilla, I would definitely put it on. The reason why you would want to wear these is because of the Dawn boss set, and at the 3 set, it gives you a pretty good bonus with some boss and attack. Now, what would the items look like at this point in terms of Star Forcing and pots and stuff like that? So this is the checkpoint that I would try and aim for when you're around level 275 as well, is you would want to try and get your items to 21 to 22 on the abundant items. So abundant items are items that you have a lot of spares of. So Sea Array, you've been doing it week to week, you get a lot of. Kana's Treasure, you've been doing it week to week, you've probably farmed a few of them. Golux, the thing about Golux is you could transfer stars through Meister Rings on KT for the ring, Dominator Pendants for the pendant, Pink Bean Belts and Reinforced Belts for the belt, and Reinforced Earrings for the earring. Again, I'm going to have a completely different star forcing guide in the future, which this will make a little bit more sense, but that's what you would do to go about starring Golux. Meisterings, you've crafted multiple, and dominated pendants, hopefully you've gotten more than one, so you can try and 21 to 22 these items on a Starforce event. This is what you should be aiming for. This is what your goal should be. 19 to 21 on harder items. So harder items, what that means is items you have not a lot of spares of. Like for example, Slime Ring, maybe you don't have that many. Bean Mark, maybe you don't have that many, but try to get it to 20. Twilight Mark, again, maybe you don't get that many from Lucian Will. Try to get it to 19 to 21 for the time being. And then 19 star arcanes. You could honestly even go like 18 to 19 star arcanes. Just try to get as many stars as possible. Like if you get your 5-star arcane and then let's say you get another box drop and then you get a glove, maybe try to get a couple stars on the glove. If it booms, all good, get it back to 17. Just try to get as many stars as possible. And then for your potentials, it would look like 2 to 3 line on your pots. 2 to 3 line means like if you get something like 1296 or 996, stuff like that, just some amount of stat, at least 2 line. 3 useful lines on WSC. WSC is weapon, secondary, and emblem. 3 useful lines means you have some sort of combination of attack, boss, and IED. So your weapon would be like attack, boss, or maybe attack, damage. Your secondary would be like attack, boss, or maybe attack, boss. And then your emblem would be like attack, IED. Something like that would be really, really good to be at this point in the game. And then in terms of flames, just try to get any amount of stat on these flames, and your weapon, try to get tier 6 attack, and you'll be good to go. So if you're level 275 and your equips are looking like this, or you're working on getting equips like this, then you're doing pretty good. Even if you're not like this, that's completely fine. But this is where your goal is and what you want your equips to kind of look like before you push much past 275 and you're in your 280s and stuff like that. Now, this next point in progression, this next checkpoint that you want to start working on is anywhere between 275 to 285. This is a huge range, obviously, but this is what you want to work on for your equips. At this point, you're going to want to start going full 22 because it's been many months and you've probably gotten a lot of spares for items, and you want to try to get as many 22s as possible. Maybe there's some items that are not 22 yet, which is fine, but you want to work on getting 22. Sometimes you get unlucky. Sometimes you're hard stuck on like your cape or something, and it just keeps booming, and it is what it is. There's nothing you could do about it, but you've been doing everything correct. You're just getting fucked by RNG, right? But this is what you're going to be looking at when you're on the road to 285 is full 22 starring your equips. So all the stars are done. You want decent 3 lines. So what does decent 3 line mean? That means you don't want any 2 lines anymore. You don't want any 12 9s. You don't want any 12 6 6. You don't want any 9 9 6. You want bare minimum 12 9 6 on your equips, or for arcanes that are higher level like 13 10 7. This is where I would say I'm at, to be honest with you. So if I show you my equips, this is around where I'm at, where I have all my items at 22, right? But they don't have perfect pots, right? This is 10 10 10. This is 12 6 9. And what I'm working on is getting nice clean pots like these 13 10 10. And my weapon, secondary, and emblem, they have decent 3 lines as well. Like my emblem is 3 lined, my secondary is 12 9 30, and my weapon is 13 10 30. It's not perfect. It's not all 3 lined, right? And these pots aren't completely perfect, but they're really good still, and you can get really, really, really far into the game at this point. And then in terms of flames, you want to have not necessarily end game flames, but pretty close to end game flames. I have an entire flame video linked below as well if you want to know more about flames. But for example, like my shoes are 85 and 6. It's definitely not a bad flame. It's still quite a lot of strength I'm getting from this, but it's not an end game flame for arcanes, for example. So this is what you're going to be looking at and what your goal is to get to this point. And it takes a really long time, but this is what you're going to be heading toward. And I want to give a reminder that like when you're in this point in the game, it takes a long time, like I just said, and you're going to have to do a lot of dailies, a lot of weeklies, waiting for events, saving money, all that stuff. That's just part of the gear progression. Now you'll notice that I haven't mentioned anything about pitch yet, or dark boss set, pitch boss set, because pitch is very RNG, right? You could even get a pitch when you're at this point in the game. Somehow you get a magic eye patch and you YOLO and it gets 22. Pitch just fits wherever it fits. The only thing that doesn't fit wherever it fits is the Lucid Belt and the Commanding Force earrings. Everything else, if you happen to get it and you happen to 22 it, just put it on. All right, and at this point in the game, this is where I would consider the final stage of equips. Realistically, this is what you're aiming for at 285 plus if you really want to finish. But most of these equips are essentially RNG gated, and you just got to keep running your weekly bosses and pray that they drop. So the main thing that you'll notice is that the pitch boss set effect, the eternal set, and you are liberated at this point. So what do all of those things mean? So the eternal set is a set of equips that replaces the CRA gear and in the future replaces even the entire arcane set as well. And the eternal set is super strong, level 250 gear, so it has insane stats and has a really strong set effect that gives you massive amount of attack, so much boss damage, and it even works with your Genesis weapon as well. To get this eternal set armor, you are going to have to clear Kalos and Kaling. And in the future, when Limbo comes out, you'll clear Limbo as well. And this is how you get those items. So when you clear Kalos and Kaling, if you clear easy, they give you a half piece. So you get a bunch of these half pieces and then you could claim the eternal armor that you want. But if you clear the normal versions, you get the full piece. And you need 10 full pieces to claim an armor that you want. But you need 20 half pieces to claim an armor. So clearing the higher difficulty ones give you more. Chaos gives you 2 pieces per clear. Hard gives you 2 pieces per clear. And extreme gives you 3 pieces per clear. And once you have enough pieces like these, you just double click it. I don't have 10 yet. And then it'll give you an option to claim the eternal piece. And if you get it to 22, you would be able to equip it and it's super good for you. Now, the pitched boss set, this replaces your accessories for the most part. So there's face, eye, pendant, ring, earring, emblem, belt, pocket slot. There's a lot of these different items, but they all drop from the hard bosses. So everything all the way from Hard Lotus till even Saren drops pitch boss items. So for example, Lotus drops the Berserk, Damien drops the magical eye patch, and so on. Lucid drops the belt, and Will drops the book, Gloom drops the endless terror, Darknell the earrings, Hilla the pendant, and Saren the emblem, and Black Mage the badge. So as you're clearing these bosses, there's a very tiny chance that you get these items. And I mentioned before that if you 22 it, you could equip it right away, except for the belt and the earring. Now, why can't you equip the belt and the earring right away, even if they're 22? The reason you can't do that is because the Goluk set is so powerful. If we go back to the Goluk set here, you can see how it says it gives you 30 boss, 30 IAD, and the stats on the Goluk's belt itself are so strong. For some reason, this Goluk's belt's base stats, 120 attack at 22 stars. That is a tremendous amount. So it's really hard to replace the belt and earring, even with the pitch set. So what people do is they wait until they're about 6 or 7 set total pitch, and then it becomes better to replace the belt and earrings. That's on average for most people. There are some edge cases where you can replace the belt and earring a little bit earlier, but for most people, you're going to have to wait until 6 and 7 set before you can put on the Dreamy Belt and the Commanding Force earrings. And then the Genesis weapon as well. You should be liberated, or at least in the middle of your liberation process at this point in the game, so you could get the strongest weapon. I have an entire guide on liberating, linked below as well if you want to know more about it, but it's the strongest weapon in the game, and this is what you ultimately end off with, and it comes at 22 stars as well. So you want to be full 22, clean 3-line. So what does clean 3-line mean? Clean 3-line is like this pendant, for example, 13 10 10 versus this hat, which is 13 7 10. It's not a clean 3-line. I'm still missing 3%, right? Triple T6 flame. So I have a flame guide as well, linked below, but triple T6 flames, that's what you want to aim for. That's what you can reasonably expect with when you're at this level of the game, when you have so much money and a lot of income, a lot of eternal flames and all this stuff at your disposal. You want to try and aim for triple T6 on your items. You're fully liberated, which means you have a Genesis weapon, and Oz rings. So if you don't know what Oz rings are, basically once you start clearing the harder bosses in the game, they drop these ring boxes, and these ring boxes have a chance of giving you these really powerful rings. Weapon jump ring, continuous ring, and ring of restraint. Those are like the 3 main ones, and they each give you a different buff. So for example, ring of restraint, this is the best one that you want. If you look in your beginner tab, you have the ring of restraint skill. This is duration 15 seconds, attack and magic attack plus 100% for 3 minutes. So this is huge for burst, and it makes you like stand in this zone, and you just gain like a tremendous amount of damage while you're in this zone. And there are other rings that are really good too, like weapon jump and continuous ring. So you want to try and get your level 4 rings at this point. But at the end of the day, the rings are RNG gated. I know people that are 286, 287 that they still don't have their ring of restraint yet because these boxes are just drops. So at this point in the game, a lot of it is just RNG. You just got to keep doing your weeklies, keep doing your dailies, and hope that stuff drops. Honestly, before this video ends, I want to give a few reminders. The first reminder is it's okay to feel stuck. I know so many people that they get to about this point in the game and they feel stuck. They don't know how to progress. and that's perfectly okay. The reason why it's kind of like ambiguous and you don't know how to progress is 2 reasons. The first reason is you need Star Force events. Star Force events make things way cheaper and you could progress way faster. And if the Star Force event is like in 3, 4, 5 weeks from now, then you have to wait, and it sucks waiting. Second reason is a lot of the equips are RNG based. Like you have to keep doing the weekly bosses, you have to keep doing the daily bosses, and eventually you'll get more of them over time. These things just take time, and eventually it'll resolve and you'll get the equips I need. So that's my first reminder, is it's okay to feel stuck and you just have to wait and keep doing the dailies and weeklies, and eventually you'll get the equips. The second reminder is this is not an end all be all guide, and there are other equips that you can wear along the way, and your equips don't have to exactly look perfectly like this. For example, let's say your arcane shoe keeps booming and you still have your Apso shoe. That's fine. Just keep your Apso shoe on for the time being until you get your arcane shoe along the way. Let's say Magnus isn't dropping a cape. That's fine. Keep wearing the Pencilier cape until he drops one, even early on. This isn't like a perfect, like you have to look exactly like this. These are just checkpoints that I wanted to show you guys, and that I think that these are like the checkpoints throughout progression that you can reach throughout your gameplay of Maplestory, and you'll get a lot stronger if you follow these guidelines, I feel personally. Well, with that all being said though, if you have any questions at all, of course, leave a comment. I do read all the comments. I'll reply to it eventually. If you want to pull up to my stream, you could ask me directly. I do these things called like account reviews, progression help, where you could come onto the stream, show me your account, and I'll help you out. And if you enjoyed this video, obviously make sure to subscribe as well for more videos. And of course, I'll update the progression guide every time there's a big patch and anything changes. But with that all being said, thank you so much for watching. Shout out to my members: Blazefire, Shooms, Uju, Shagad, Ravi Espa, Koga, Pabo, Piconir, Jesse B, Dante Victory, ZatsMS, CK, Assassin 510, and Prellman. I appreciate you guys so much. And shout out to all the wonderful fan art. It's so sick, and thank you for sending it.